Good morning, and I'm very aware that there is probably a great need to go to the bathroom and get a cup of coffee, so I'll make this as brief and, as possible. Whenever FSMA was passed and put into effect, there was many different components, but there was two that really affected the audience that's here today, and one is that produce would be inspected, and the second one was required under that was that the FDA would be utilizing state resources to implement FSMA. So here we go. We've been working at it for 5 years. NASDA received the first produce safety cooperative agreement. We've worked very closely with FDA in trying to advance this process of meeting the FSMA requirements. Some of the things that have occurred is that we have put together an educational process that you all have been intimately involved with called on-farm readiness reviews. We have been, NASDA, in conjunction with FDA, put together a framework that tells us how state departments of agriculture will do inspections. We have worked together to put together the inspection process because it is a little bit different than those are used in feed or food. So that took 5 years. It was a tough go. We've had some tremendous successes, and I want to thank everybody here that participated in that, whether it be an on-farm readiness review, some of the educators with the just what has been accomplished. So the first grant we had ran out in August of 2019. So let's see. On May 1st, 2019, FDA says we're going to go do it again, and they renamed the grant to the National Project to Support and Promote Consistent Implementation of the Standards of Growing, Harvesting, Packaging, and Holding of Produce for Human Consumption. Pretty long title, but the whole purpose of it is that FDA wanted a partner to help the state departments of agriculture implement their programs. NASDA received that on September 10th. We have a partner there with AFTO, and we will be working at various stages to get this accomplished. And we need everybody's help here because it is if you're involved with the State Department of Agriculture that is building a produce program, we will be there. Our purpose is to be there to support you. We've been there through the first 5 years. We're going to be going to another 5 years. That's pretty long. That's pretty long goal there, but we're going to be assisting the states developing their produce safety programs. Now that doesn't sound like much, but if you're a regulator and you step into a program that's already developed and you've got SOPs and all the things and processes out there and budgets and equipment and all like that, that's pretty cool. Then you just have to run it and make things happen from day to day. But if you have to build an airplane as you're trying to fly it, and that's probably the simplest way I can put it, and that's what we're doing with building these state programs, it's a big deal. And we need all the help that in helping to, in conjunction with FDA. And I'm looking over at Stephen because we work very closely just to get this accomplished. Getting all these individual state programs up to a level of consistency across the United States is a huge deal. you can't even get the 10 people around you at the table to do the same thing consistently. So getting 48, I think 48, Stephen, is it 48 now? I think it's 48 programs, or I better, Doreen, to do the same thing in a consistent way and to carry out regulatory program is just unbelievable. So it is a 5-year cooperative agreement. It started in September 10th of 19 and will go through 24. There are, let's see, let me catch up. There are 7 components. The ones that I'd just like to talk a little bit about today is state and territorial safety regulatory program assistance. We will be working with the states to not tell them what to do, because that's not our purpose. Every one of the state produce safety programs have done inspections this year. They have, to some degree, defined their programs. They do not look alike. So we've got to work with them to build them into some sort of consistency. Some of the other charges is we will have meetings and work groups, and I'll go over that in a slide in just a minute. We will be looking at the training that take place in conjunction with FDA to see if there are things that need additional resources or enhancements. We will be doing 2 more years of on-farm readiness reviews. There are 4 scheduled for this year. There will be 4 after that. And then that program will sunset. One of the charges that we've got is, if you look at the on-farm readiness review manual and the outreach that provides, how do you continue that on? It's not something that we feel like we feel like it has tremendous value going forward, but we need to repackage it in a manner that will, as you go out as a regulator, how will you be able to educate the population that you're going to be inspected? Last but not least, there is a program regulator, produce program, regulatory program standards development, and that's going to be taking place in year 3 through 5, and I'll come back to that on my last slide. So the meetings that we were going to be hosting or participating in is the National Consortium that will be coming up in about 3 weeks. We will be participating in these regional meetings. We will have a management meeting on a quarterly basis between FDA, the states, and also NASDA and AFTO, where we talk about things and try to figure out the course going forward. And then we will have various work groups that we're going to be working in and facilitating. So let's talk about the last charge, which is G, which is the Produce Regulatory Program Standard Development. Quick poll. How many of you are working within some sort of standards program, FDA standards program, such as feed or manufactured food right now? If you could show your hands. That's interesting. What is a standards program? Well, one of the things that FDA, what FSMA said, is that the commissioner will utilize state resources. Now, FDA says that's good, but they all have got to reach a certain level of competency and at least have some consistency. So they said there's going to be quality management programs that they would like to see in all the states. And this has happened in manufactured foods. It's extremely successful. And, you know, whether you're in New York or Texas or North Carolina, you've got a program there that is doing things basically similar. Now, I know this is not an inspection program we're talking about, but it is a program to conduct a produce safety regulatory program. So more to come to that. That starts in year 3 through 5. Brenda Morris back at the back table from AFTO will be working as the sub-awardee on that, leading that. So if you've got questions, Brenda or I can discuss them with you. But there's a lot of work that has to be done between now and then to prepare all these programs for going into produce safety standards. So, and again, it's not saying that you have the same inspection protocol and that you've got to do everything the same. It's saying that you have an inspection program that probably has the same components as your neighbor. And I'll leave it with that. So, thank you.